sure I'm listening.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're calling the meeting back to order. We recessed from our 5 o'clock meeting that we had with a non-public session about the superintendent eval. So now we'll recommence at 6:30. And if we could just all salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I guess we'll do another roll call.
Freeze
See what's on
here.
the agenda.
Girardi here.
Keen here.
Kid here.
Over here.
We have old business. Rebroadcasting equipment purchased by town, Mr. Wolfer.
Oh, okay, but yes, I sent an email to Michelle and Ida. I did talk about being put on the agenda, but what happened at the last deliberative session is the voters eliminated the fee that they're collecting and putting aside in the trust fund to purchase equipment. So they're capped as to how much money they can use to, how much money they have that's available. So they're asking us what we would like to have done. And the question that Heidi asked is whether there's money there for us, and she's asked what we'd like to have done first, and her suggestion was that we ask that they wire the school. Because we can buy the equipment, we have to have something to connect it to. So her suggestion, she wants to know if we'd like, if with what limited funds they have, what would our priorities be as far as expenditures for the school as far as equipment? And she suggested asking if we'd like to have the school wired first.
I'm not sure I understand, Indy.
Right.
The school wired for what?
To connect up the school wired so they can put in the cameras, put in the, because you have the cameras, the feed has to go somewhere from the cameras. You have to put the cameras in, there's the camera feeds, and then there's a central place where they feed that stuff into, so it can be replayed and watched. So, yeah, so you can have the cameras, but then you have to have something, you can buy the cameras and record it and then send it in, or you can have it done live. And have it done live, you have to have the school wired up. Yeah.
Mr. Brown, here.
You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, Mr. Brown, yes.
We're already wired up.
Okay,
That was done within the last year.
all right,
A company came in and wired everything right to a terminal on the stage,
all right,
and it hooks right to the town cable.
all right,
And I believe there's also a drop in the library.
all right. What about the SAU here? Are we wired here?
I don't
So we can
know.
broadcast our meetings? No, we're not.
I don't know.
Did you,
Yeah.
Scott, you said we're wired to the town hall?
We're wired to cable.
Okay. So we must need equipment to attach to that wire.
Right.
Is that what they're telling us?
Cameras or any other devices could be fed in and
All right.
broadcast.
Do you think maybe we should get a rep from Comcast to come in and tell us what the procedure is?
That would be fine. Is
Alright.
this money that's supposedly available, is it restricted to purchasing equipment for rebroadcasting?
Well, they can use anything that has to do with broadcasting school events. You know, that would include the wiring and include equipment and include whatever else we needed. That's what the money's for.
But it couldn't be used for more pressing equipment purchases when you need it.
Well, I mean, I've gone for if people have questions, want me to ask the selectmen, I can certainly go before them and ask, you know, if you have more specific questions regarding what this money could be used for. I was just putting myself on the agenda, and then that was what we
Maybe we can contact Heidi, see if she knows the rep that could come in and explain to us what we need to do to get live with Channel 22. And what kind of money we can use, because I know we have a fund, and I know the money's there. I know there's been some issues with pulling money from the fund, because you have to get the voters' approval to
No.
spend.
No, it's a trust fund run by the
Oh.
selectmen.
Oh, it is?
Yes, so they, you don't need
Because wasn't there
to,
some
I
controversy
thought it
about
was only put in place for Comcast for equipment for that purpose, though, that.
it was put in place, basically, they use it to wire the town hall, they're using, buying equipment for the town hall, so they can broadcast all their meetings
Right,
live.
because it was a fee that was charged on the Comcast bill.
Right, and that fee was eliminated the last delivery set.
Right.
So they only have so much money in the fund.
I think it was only for that purpose, but I could be wrong.
I would recommend we do touch base with Heidi and get maybe a rep in who can explain to us what we can do with what we have, or if we need additional funds to do something.
Well, I can talk to Selectmen, we need to, number one, we need to see how much money is in the fund, because Comcast wouldn't know that,
Right.
because we control the fund, and then get a sense from the Selectmen exactly what they'd be willing to spend the money on.
Oh, okay. You want to do that at your next
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could also include in that, if that could encompass the wiring of this building,
Right.
so that these meetings could also be broadcast.
Yeah, it would, it would pay for wiring this building,
Okay.
if we chose to do that.
We'd have to check with the landlord though, see if they
Right.
let us wire.
I guess my question is there a benefit to wiring the building versus finding out if there's another way to give the tapes over, other than how we were doing it in the past?
We could ask.
Or, you know, just see what we need to the school if we had to.
Right.
I know
right.
we had gotten warnings years ago that they were gonna stop doing that
Right,
service,
right.
and that we had to find something else to do, but they kept doing it, and then they finally just decided and pulled it, because we got notified from Heidi that they pulled it now.
Because I said, all
But we
Heidi,
had been warned for
right.
years.
So I asked before the agenda, and Heidi came back with saying, well, we have only a limited number of funds, what would your priorities be at the school as far as spending on either equipment or getting your place wired? And what do you want it for? Is it important that we get, and they're doing it so they can broadcast all their meetings. You know, the selectmen's meeting, the budget committee, the planning board, the zoning commission. So what would our do we want to use it for school events, or do we want to use it so we can broadcast the school board meetings? Or do we want to, buy equipment for the school, then move the school board meetings over there so that they can be broadcast? That'd be sort of.
I don't know if we can use it, can we use it for school events if we don't have a release?
I,
You know, we
yeah,
have to
I
have a
don't, there's a
release,
lot to
like-
investigate. We did this in Farmington, and
Right.
because we had to purchase the equipment, it was upwards of $25,000-$30,000 by the time we were done.
Right.
And then, the main thing that was the most expensive to us is, because of this Channel 22,
Right.
they wanted sort of continuous program, so we had to hire somebody with television experience that could keep these things running.
That's the way it is in Epping too. They have to have somebody on full-time that mans the website and the continuous feed and does the programming.
Right. But Charles, would that be something that the town and the school would join in together? Would we join them? You know, I mean,
Well,
if
can you
that- if
ask
we
the
had to-
selectmen
yeah,
what they
I'll-
want to do?
Yeah, I'll ask them.
That'd be nice. Okay. So agenda revisions, I don't have any, well, oh, we do have, Michelle, if it's okay with you for non-public, for the second session, if we could add your eval,
Oh, okay.
because we're complete with it, if you have time this evening, I don't think it'll take more than
Sure.
half an hour or so,
Okay.
as part of the non-public session too. And we'll move right to the approval of minutes for public minutes of May 28th. Anybody have any changes to those?
Do not. Motion to accept May
Hold on a
28th.
second, I need to check. Let's give me a second.
Sorry.
I don't think I had any, but I wanted to just double check and make sure.
Motion to accept the May 28th minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye. And then the non-public minutes of May 28th, we will do in non-public.
Session 1 was not
Not
sealed.
sealed. Okay, so we can do them here. Did anybody have any changes to those?
no.
Motion to accept the May 28th non-public minutes, session 1 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Board superintendent communication and reports.
Yes, a lot of good things are happening. We received notification, you have the approval letter in your packet that our school district's tech plan has been approved. And we had our last committee meeting of the tech committee, and we'll be looking at some of the recommendations that they made when the new committee resumes in the fall. I've also included for you, I have updated our school board goals in terms of, there were changes in our collective bargaining agreements, our communication, and education, as well as technology. So every time there's a collection of changes, I will update this for you, and as you can see, we're making good progress on our goals.
Michelle, on that topic, do you think that some of these, we might even just want to say annually by a date, you know what I mean? Because there's a few that we're gonna, some will be every other year, if, or 2 years, but some will be annually, like the budgeting process, and
Sure.
so I thought maybe we could update that too.
Just to say annual.
Yeah, before December 1st each year, or something like that, because there are gonna be things we have to address every year, some of them.
Right. I just had a question about, what do I do about the grant committee? Do we need to change that warrant that doesn't allow us to accept outside money? Because basically, at the beginning of the year, I was told, because we couldn't accept outside money at this point in time, not to go ahead with the grant committee, we can't, nothing to do with it anyway. So would one of the goals be to, would one of the activities be to represent that warrant article so we can accept outside money?
I would certainly like to do that. For example, I can just give you an example. This week, we received an invitation for our entire school administration and selected teachers to go to a workshop for 2 days over at Keene State College. And the DOE had given us $10,000 grant to do that. We can't accept that grant.
Unless we have a special meeting, and by the
It's
time
not
we
a-
do that.
Right, it's a meeting in which a
Right.
vote takes place.
Right, which means it's gonna cost us almost as much to do that, well, not as
Right.
much, but more than
Right.
we would normally have to do. So we had to turn that down.
Well, it's one of these questions we have, we don't know if it's mandatory or not to attend. So if it's mandatory, we're gonna have to find the money within the operating budget. But that's just an example of an opportunity missed to utilize
So
funds.
if it's
that-
mandatory, it may be worthwhile just seeing how much it's gonna cost to have a meeting, have the meeting.
It's expensive.
But is it more than $10,000?
We can't have the meeting in time.
We can't.
When's
The grants due June 18th.
We have to we have to give notice, hold the first session, and then there has to be so much time between the first session and the voting, and then we have to open the polls.
I think we have to go for the budget committee too, for a
I think what we should do is, for this category of grant committee, we might want to say the goal is to to replace the current warrant article that's restricting our grant fund status, to change it back, and that be the goal, and activities will have to have somebody in charge of that to figure out what we're gonna do to educate the public on what we're missing, because we don't have that in place.
Now, I have a question for you.
So the grant committee category should stay.
Right.
They should be working on trying to get this, this warrant, the petition warrant article that passed a few years ago, reversed.
But I have a question for you. Can't we put a grant committee in place to work on grants for next year that, or the following year, that we can put in our budget next year so that it's part of our budget, so it's not unanticipated funds? You know what I mean? Can you apply for grants now for fiscal year 14 or 15,
Well, could
whatever
we-
our next budget season
No, if we
is?
include like $20,000 in revenues for the grants in the budget, and list $20,000 of things we'd like to spend that money on. So that way, it would, if we don't get the money, we don't spend it, so it balances out. I mean, can we do that? We'd have to specify what we want to spend it on.
Right.
Because it'd have to balance out. You couldn't just accept the money and then not know what you're gonna spend it on, because then if you didn't get the money, it would affect your tax rate.
How does that work?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right.
We'd have to think about
Right,
that. It's a
right.
very good suggestion.
I just wondered if we could start a grant committee that is applying for grants now. Can you apply this early for grants for the next budget season? So
Wow.
when we budget, we know if we got the grant, and we can budget it for.
Yeah, some grants are like, they give you 60 days, they give you 30 days to apply. They're not like,
They're not that far out.
you're not that far. But what I would like to do though, is I have a list of grants that we could have applied, what we could have considered, and I'd like to include those in the minutes. It's got the organization, what it's for, and how much money they give. I'd like to include it as examples of grants. we
Missed
could-
opportunities.
As missed opportunities.
May I ask a question on why can't we accept grants? This part I wasn't here for.
The
so-
198.2 that was on the warrant article, that it was warrant article 8, I think, or something, that basically says that the school can accept unanticipated funds and spend them at our own discretion. Well, it didn't pass. So we can't accept anything we didn't anticipate, which would be that grant. Wasn't in our budget, wasn't part of our budget, so we can't accept it. Unless we hold a special meeting.
Right. That's because 3 years ago, there was a warrant article that didn't allow the school board to expend unanticipated funds.
They rescinded our
Yeah.
198.2.
Yeah. So that's why.
Michelle, the other thing to think about for that $10,000 grant that you're talking about is, we said we were anticipating a certain amount for IDEA and all of those funds, and it came in short, but we still have that money in our bottom line as anticipated revenue. You know what I mean? We're short, I don't know how
Well,
much,
we
but maybe we
appropriate-
could use some of the 10,000
Right.
to make up the difference there.
But we appropriated $1 for federal funds, so, and we budgeted everything in the general fund, so that we would transfer it out. So, none of this $10,000 is in the general fund. The $10,000,
Right.
you follow what I'm saying?
But
It's
so-
It
$1
has to be
is,
offset by
Right.
what's in the general fund.
that's correct.
And it's all for professional development.
Right.
So, the only other thing we can do, and it would really hamper our efforts throughout the years to take the 10,000 if we get that much out of Title II-A.
We're not Laura, we're not getting as much anticipated revenue as we thought we were going to get, correct?
For your grant monies, but
Right.
remember, all programs for your grant are in your general fund operating.
I know, but what I'm talking about is the revenues, because that's what this warrant article speaks of, is it's your revenue. It's your unanticipated revenue, okay? So we anticipated 120,000, I think, for federal grants. We only got 105,000, I'm just going from memory.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, if we use the 10,000 as part of the anticipated revenue we got. We said we would get about 120, and the voters said okay to the 120,000 in revenue. We're only taking in 105, so why couldn't we take in the 10 as part of the 120 we said we were gonna get?
Because you're also going to spend it. You're also going to spend those.
I know, but we're not gonna spend the 15,000 that we didn't get. Do you know what I'm saying?
Is it because it's for different purposes?
Yeah, it is. This
So
is
the
for-
IDEA
Because
would be
IDEA
for services for children,
Because we
and this
list what
would be
we're
professional
anticipating.
development for the administration and staff and.
Right,
So-
but we didn't tell the voters, I don't think the voters care as long as you don't spend your bottom line, over your bottom line. It's that same rule again, back, is not to overexpend
The bottom line.
your bottom line. And not to accept any revenues that you didn't anticipate. Well, we anticipated 120,000, and we're only getting 105. Just, I mean, I'm just saying that we might
You
need
know,
to think
that's
creatively that way to.
A creative suggestion, Ida, why don't we, we'll run it by the auditor and see if we can do that. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Good thinking.
It might not work, but it
Works
it
for us.
seems to make, it
Yeah.
seems to be a fair way to handle it, because we thought that's how much money we were gonna get, and that's what the board has approved. Okay. And planning ahead, we could avoid that warrant that has been giving us trouble all along if we could plan long enough term ahead with grants, and that's the tough part, is not knowing. But maybe just assuming a certain, we're gonna apply for, say, $50,000 worth of grant money over the year, the grant committee. And then if we don't get it, we don't spend it, but if we get it, we spend it, and we told the voters about it at the meeting. And that's one way around that,
We have to match it out with expenditures, otherwise what happens is it affects your tax rate.
right,
Because if we say we're getting revenues but no expenditures, then,
no, right.
yeah, we'd have to say, we're gonna $50,000 grant, we're spending $50,000 on this.
You don't
Right,
have
and then if it doesn't come
appropriation.
in, you don't spend it.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Well, a perfect example would be the generator.
Oh, yeah.
If we could put in, $75,000 in grant revenue
Right.
to purchase a generator.
Right.
Well, if we don't get the grant revenue, we don't get the generator.
Right,
Right.
right, we could do that, right.
We'll have to remember that during our budget process, to do that, for some of those grants that we think we can write. Just a different way of thinking about it than we used to do. So,
I also, I'm embarrassed to explain that I went to follow up on the board's request to take a look at the sealed minutes of the past
Oh,
and bring forward those that had been sealed indefinitely for you to look at. And unbeknownst to me, I found that several administrators ago had a very different system for sealing minutes, and I did not even know of their existence. So what I would like the board's permission to do is just to take time over the summer, go through every single set of minutes and find out exactly which ones are sealed and list their dates, and then bring those forward to you.
sure.
But,
And take your time. I mean,
yeah,
You know, don't try to rush through it and add to your plate.
right, no, yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, 1 month would be fine. Every other month would be fine. I mean, they're already sealed, so it's not like we gotta suddenly rush down to seal them, so.
that's not your fault either, Michelle, so you shouldn't be
Yeah.
embarrassed.
Well,
It's
I
hard to-
thought I had, I went through all of our electronic listings, but when a certain administrator sealed the minutes, he wouldn't even allow the administrative assistants to know that they were sealed.
Oh,
No, wow.
So, makes it kinda hard to find sealed minutes if you don't know that they're sealed.
That little stamp on them or something like that? Little,
That's a lot of video to watch.
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Okay. All right, subcommittee reports. Policy committee. Go ahead, Sharon, you can talk about the policy.
All right, well, policy committee met last meeting. All the policies in our packets today.
So
And we're back on schedule.
you guys are very busy.
Okay, budget committee?
We haven't met again, so still status quo.
Do they start up in August? Is that when they usually?
No, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah, I think August, yeah.
Negotiations committee?
We haven't
We
started.
met with the lawyer, we came up with a basic outline of what we're gonna present, what we're gonna talk about. And I guess we'll be scheduling a meeting,
We'll talk about it in
yeah,
a.
right.
Sure.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay, and the teachers' negotiations, we haven't heard anything from yet, right, Michelle?
No, they're still, I think it's this week or next week, they're actually voting on
Members.
their officers.
Yeah, we wanted to
They had a
wait.
meeting today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're announcing it during our meeting, everyone meet, FBI, please meet, and, yeah. So,
That's correct.
Okay, Board of Selectmen's meeting?
you already know, I'm scheduling, hopefully get some time with them, this Thursday to talk about two things. One, to once again, talk about what's the school's role in a disaster, how we, part of the emergency management plan. And number two, about the video. So,
Okay.
sure.
PTA?
I wasn't able to go to the meeting last week. I know that they did have, elections, but I'm not sure. I've tried to look to see.
Jennifer Brown's the president, I know that. Who's the
Jennifer
vice
Evans
president?
is.
Jody
secretary.
Donahue is vice president.
Lori Donahue, yes.
Lori.
I mean,
Jody.
Jody Donahue, you're right.
And Ancha is
Staying on treasurer.
secretary,
Oh, secretary.
and Jenny Evans is
Jenny.
treasurer.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's a
And-
fifth, her, there's a fifth one of these, right?
For the actors. Yes, Brittany Thompson is, they call it engagement.
Or
something,
enrichment, yes,
enrichment.
yes.
You know,
Mm.
Great.
And Mr.
And
what
I-
was Westfield?
I can tell you that what I saw is, as President Jennifer Brown set a goal to have 100% staff participation or membership. She said it's a goal that has been for the PTA, but nobody's ever been able to meet it, so as president, she set that as her goal to meet.
Okay.
And you said field day's coming up.
Yeah,
Friday.
Friday.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It rains like crazy till then.
Every year, huh?
It might be wet, so.
Lots of water games.
Professional development? I don't think there's anything new on that, is there? And the curriculum committee?
We met today. We had a guest, chairman of our school board. We met today, basically where we're at, we're trying to come up with a set of, what turned out to be, we're gonna ask 3 questions. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a big dinner, so probably a spaghetti dinner, and then prior to people coming in, we're going to have them do a tour of the school. I had a great idea of having students in every classroom talk about what they're learning and everything else like that. So they'll get a tour of the school and come into the gym, they'll have the dinner, then we'll do a presentation of the school, where we're at, where we're going, AYP, all that other stuff. And then we're gonna break down into groups, and each group's gonna deal with 3 questions. I don't know if we sort of bandied them about, they're gonna sort of come from a survey, they're gonna be sort of general questions. And then, we'll come back and we'll go from there, but this won't be like one meeting, this will like be the beginning of an ongoing process of getting the community involved in the school and school curriculum. It really, this is our goal. It's kind of hard to keep it focused, just curriculum. It kind of goes off in every area. I mean, people have a lot of great ideas of things we could do in the school, how the school could be more of a resource, like having an antique roadshow day and stuff like that within the school, just to get people in the school to do things here and get familiarizing themselves with it. That was 2 meetings ago, but that's not our bailiwick, the curriculum committee. So that's sort of where, so we have a list of, a pretty long list of people in the town. Michelle, John, Larry Dotson, and I myself can meet. We're gonna drop an invitation letter to invite people to this big meeting in the fall. It's gonna be September 18th. Our next meeting is gonna be July 18th. We're gonna go over sort of the ground rules of how we want to set this thing up. Go over, we're gonna start the facilitator training so people can get people ready to facilitate the groups. So that's sort of where we're at.
Sounds good.
And all of you are invited.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
Great. Okay, info items, business administrators report, cost of meals, cafe services.
Okay. Actually, we can kind of scroll to the third section of my report. Cafe Services didn't actually provide me with a figure in my second paragraph here. I pretty much looked at what the projected, lunch count was and came up with the number of students served and what the cost for food was. So it's really, truly a rough cost per meal for product. Then when you start adding in their contracted price, their labor, their insurance, their training for staff, I mean, you see that it goes, up to $4.13, far beyond what we charge parents, and what any district would be charging. I have several questions from Mr. Van Zant about coming up with a budget for next year. And he did include a letter for me that said that, essentially if you do go and increase your lunch prices by 25 cents, you're still looking at the potential of next year having a program deficit of $8,200. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. This year, looking at some of their financial reports, it looked like we would have also had a deficit, but in May, we had a lot of sales. One of the other things that does offset the cost is that if his staff are not on vacation, he doesn't have to pay them on vacation. And that's also, right, when school's not in session, of course, there's no meal sales. So this year will come out, what he says is we'll come out very, very close, so that we don't, have this kind of a deficit. But he just wants us to know that going forward next year, there is that potential.
What changed to make such deficit? I thought we never had one before.
That's a very, very good question. When he developed the budget for 12-13, he was provided enrollment counts from a year previous. So those enrollment counts, so for example, June 2011, you had 527 students, approximately 527 students. June 2012, you had approximately 475 students. So now you've got decreased participation. He has a slightly increased price in wages, but most of it has to do with decreased participation, really. Kind of interesting piece of a stat here is that only 11% of students are on the free program, and only 6% do reduced. So we're kind of thinking maybe there's more students that could participate in the actual program.
Except don't they make less money?
The feds bring in the money. The feds make up the difference.
Well, they get more
The
money,
Fed,
that's
right.
right, we charge less than what they get, that's right.
Right,
The whole
so the
shit.
feds will make up the difference. So it's about getting more students to participate. We've been crunching some numbers on participation counts, but
So in other words, the price increase is not going to be helping cafe services to profit, it's going to be helping the district reduce the deficit that we have to cover for those meals served.
And there's another component too that Mr. Van Zandt asked that I just kind of share, is that cafe services can also do the catering for some events, so that if there are events not student-related in the meals programs, but say the after-hour events, whatever they will charge, probably about 50% of that would actually go in as revenue for other events that also help to support the program, reducing this potential $8,200 deficit.
Now, are they increasing their rate based on that deficit?
No, no. If anything, he's trimmed out, the only piece that he's actually increased in their budget is wages. And that's about $750. Administrative service fee remains the same. He's actually reduced another component of his administrative fee by about $600. Insurance they've reduced. So.
I have two questions. Number one, how long do we let students go delinquent before we stop serving them lunch?
Well, under the school lunch program, you cannot stop serving the students. We had to, right. We have, at this point, $1,600 throughout the year in deficit balances that we're trying to collect from parents. About 2 weeks ago, we sent out a letter, saying, this is what's happening. Yes, your child will still be fed, but not necessarily getting the full boat of.
That's what Sanborn did. Sanborn,
Yes.
after April vacation, sent out a letter to all the parents that said, after April vacation, anybody who's kind of negative will be giving a cheese sandwich, that's it, nothing else. They cannot buy lunch. No.
Right. The other question I have is, we have the adults only pay what, $3.25 or something like that? Which is
Yes.
still below the cost of producing lunch. Why don't we charge adults the full amount? The full $4.13. I don't understand why we don't do that. And there might be some legal reason why, that's why I'm asking, but I don't know why they can't pay the cost of doing the lunch, why we have to subsidize adults.
That's a good question. I think that's probably, something that the board wants to decide. I didn't bring the counts with me for actual number of adults served. I mean, what you're actually going to risk using sales, but, that's,
We would need to know what it costs, right? Right now, it's just an estimate, $4.13.
right, that's,
You can't charge the cost if you don't know it. I think we thought we were charging I think we thought that the rate that we were charging was what it was costing to do lunch.
Right.
Because I wouldn't assume that this was gonna be serving lunch at a loss.
Right.
So, do you know what I mean? I think we thought we were covering the cost,
Right.
the teachers weren't getting a deal, they just were paying whatever it costs to do lunch.
right.
So if I don't know how we can charge them the actual amount until we know what it is. And I would hate to make that decision until we know for sure that we actually are undercharging.
So they're gonna give us an accurate,
I sent him another email yesterday afternoon looking for the information. We talked about how they came up with their budget, the effects of the budget, the dollar figure.
So the piece
And
that's
where we would-
missing is the counts?
Yes, what it actually costs for the labor, their costs, I came up with these costs.
Based on the
Yes,
budget.
and I also want to know what he actually used for enrollment counts.
Do they give you a
Budget
number
as
of
well.
how many lunches were purchased throughout the year?
Yes, I do have that in,
But there's a differential between breakfast and lunch.
But if you knew how many meals in general were purchased, you could take the cost for the year and divide it by how many meals, and there you go, there's your cost per meal, average
Well,
cost per meal.
Yes, and then, but then there's also a component that breakfast gets blended in with that too. So breakfast
still-
isn't really going to be the same thing, so that's why I'm more relying on their numbers. I asked him for a breakdown of how he came up with the projected income. I just need to see what he came up with for his counts.
So we'll know more at the next meeting, Lori, I think? Okay,
Yes.
that's what your note
Yes,
says.
I don't want the board to be, having to make a hasty decision as well, and to be as informed.
Mhm.
I want to be informed as well too, so. Other portions of my report, first part about the general fund. Just, I left this brief if you have some questions.
I just, I know you told us before, I was asking again, what is miscellaneous revenues? Miscellaneous revenues. Revenue report.
Actually, we received some refunds that we had not actually known that we were going to be getting. It might have been something, we received something small, I guess maybe like an overpayment on supplies. There were actually a whole series of some small things that I went after at the state treasury, abandoned property,
Oh.
you might recall it. I think I came up to about $5,000, so that's where I reported that.
All right. And as, I was supposed to say Medicaid was a nice surprise.
And that's not unanticipated revenue?
Well, actually, you're not spending it. You're not gonna be spending it. It's gonna go to your fund balance, actually.
All right.
Right. You don't have an appropriation for it, so. Okay. Any other questions on the general fund?
I just had, on line number 2600-5731,
Yep.
is that the security that we approved?
Yes, it is.
So the transfer was approved, right? Or is it in this packet?
It actually is in this
Okay,
packet.
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we already did it. But that's not
You
addition to,
actually did
that's,
do a component of it.
Okay.
Where we moved some money from savings in electricity and fuel oil.
okay,
And so yes, it is on the latter part of the agenda.
okay.
Any other questions on the general fund?
No, I say that, unless I say again, Medicaid was a nice surprise for revenues.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, they're tracking very well.
we're tracking very well.
And the same goes for federal funds as well. I mean, I've managed to close out one grant, working closely with staff on IDEA and the preschool component, as well as the Title I grants, so that we're getting, things in process and collected. So, it's actually working out pretty smoothly.
And the state education tax, is that the last payment we're gonna get from the town?
I kind of record that, the last piece of it, yes.
We haven't gotten that yet though, right?
No, in fact, you'll have that, I think on the 28th of June or so. Yes, when the town turns that piece over.
Okay.
I've done a reconciliation with the town, so that
Mhm.
we're certain what we're collecting and involving the treasurer as well, yes. So, that's all I have.
All right, what's
Thank
the-
you, Lori.
What's the commodities account? I don't think I've ever seen that on here.
Actually, I'm trying to find ways to kind of shave off the whole audit process. The auditors come up with an adjusting entry at the end of the year for surplus commodities that are purchased through the state, and you record the net value. So it really should always wash. If there's something like $8,100 or so, you should see on the expenditure side and also on the revenue side, and they just end up washing.
And so it's okay to add that line item even though we didn't have it?
It's gonna wash, it's just a wash, and it's something that you don't see on the financial statements because the auditors spend all this time coming up with a journal entry throughout the year. So I'm actually doing the step for them, and then I'll show them the journal entry and it'll be reconciled.
Right, but I thought that there was something in place that said that you couldn't spend against a line item that wasn't already there.
We're not spending it, we're recording the net difference of, they both wash. A net commodity is recorded as a revenue,
Right, I get that, it's recorded as a
And then-
revenue and an expense.
Right.
So it's,
So
so we
they
don't,
just
so
went
that
to
doesn't
zero.
fall under the guidelines that we spent it on a line item that we didn't already have.
No, because
Okay.
that's what it means by net.
Did it,
Nets
was
to
it,
zero.
was it,
Doesn't affect the bottom line at all.
No, I get that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
totally get that it doesn't affect the bottom line and that the revenue offsets the expense.
Yeah.
But I thought the law stated that once you set your budget, you cannot add any more line items because the voters already voted on all the line items and all the functions in your budget. And you couldn't spend, like this has a zero budget. You always had to have a dollar if you were gonna spend
Yeah.
against the line item. You had to have a dollar in that line.
Actually, it's probably not even an entry that you've ever seen probably on your financials because it gets done by the auditors in-house.
so it's not, it
In-house
was never
here.
included in 3,100, 5330?
No. No, so I'm
And
just,
even though that's a wash too, that line,
right.
both lines are a wash, but it never was recorded before this and now it is, so it adds $8,000.
It's an adjusting entry that the auditors do that you don't even see. What I'm trying to do is save the legwork, the hours that they charge when they come here to do their
Okay, so
year-end.
next year when we budget for next year, we'll see that line and it'll tell us what the commodity is gonna be, or will it not?
I won't even need to put in a budget for it because it's gonna come to zero. It's an adjusting auditing entry. I'm just doing the entry every month instead of giving them my journal book and saying, here, come up with my entry at the end of the year.
The report you've given us, the statement of revenues report,
Yeah.
it shows that we were overspent in that line by $7,225 because of that commodities entry.
Right, and then you look on the other side of it, on the expenditures, and you'll have the corresponding entry.
Which is 8123.
And net USDA commodities, let me see here, revenues 8123. So you're reporting the net, 8123, and you're expensing the difference. Does not change the bottom line at all. So if you look on page 38, you have net USDA commodities, 8123. Is everybody following that?
I get that.
And then on page 39, it's the corresponding entry.
I guess my concern is when the expense report goes before the budget committee, are they gonna think that that's an additional expense line that we added?
Lori's gonna have to explain it just like she did to us,
Yeah.
I would think.
Right, and it's required by the auditors.
Well, I don't think it's
and it-
required, I think.
Yes,
she
it is
said normally
required.
it's a journal
Yes, it is
entry.
required.
But it's normally done as a journal entry, not as a.
Yeah.
I'd rather see it, honestly. just like
No, I
she said.
would
It's
too,
just
I
that it's something we haven't seen in the
Right.
past.
Right.
I guess
But I would rather see
what I'm
it here.
trying to do is I'm trying to shave off the time that the auditors spend going through journal entries and saying, oh, well, we need this, we need that. I
Right.
mean, if I can do the supporting documents and pull it all together and say, hey, I've already taken care of and reconciled food service, and this is your net, that saves them 4 hours' time having to comb through that stuff. I'm just
And
trying
how
to
many
find,
hours an hour?
well, about $1. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing it, I guess it's always been one of the best practices that I've
So-
always learned to do.
I think that's fine, and the thing that we're worried about, of course, is we go to the budget law conference and they scream at us to say, if it's a zero line item, you can't spend against it, right? And so we're
Right.
seeing zero line item and we're seeing an $8,000, and I understand what you're saying, that
We're
the money's
offsetting
coming
one
in and
or the
going
other.
out.
Right.
They just never mentioned that there are exclusions to that rule.
Yeah.
So they just tell us not to spend.
It's an accounting entry, and I can probably show you like all the other worksheets that the auditors have done years past, so.
I'm good. I don't need to see that. But the, and I don't know if you are, Sharon, but you can always,
No, that's, explain it to the budget committee so they don't
Yeah.
say that we're violating the
Right,
RSA, that's
right.
all I'm worried about.
and then, so this
Believe
is
me,
showing,
I don't
Yeah, this is showing that we're gonna actually be short in the lunch program by 22 grand though, right? Or almost 23,000?
And that was my, right,
And our contract reads that if they come up short, they eat it, not us.
that's correct. And I
Okay.
did have that conversation with him as well,
Okay.
and said, what are you doing to make certain that the general fund does not have to contribute this year? One of the things that he did was they actually bought more of these commodities products from the state. It's the federal food.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
the cheese and
Okay,
all those.
exactly,
things,
yeah.
Yeah.
So in May and June, they're using a lot more of those products. They cost less, I mean, and that's, so basically it's getting offset with increased sales, but less expense on the food.
So we don't have to spend from general fund ever though, according to our contract, right? Because this shortage, according to their contract, they absorb. We just don't pay them.
Right.
We pay their last payment less this amount that they overran their program by.
Right, but I'm also questioning, he's putting us on notice, saying that his projections for next year are coming up short by $8,200.
That's why I asked
So
if
I-
they changed their price, if they changed their
Let
quote.
her finish her thought.
They did not change their fees, and that's why I was explaining, the reason things that are coming up short is because if you compare the revenue budget, he put in a revenue budget for this year of $172,500, and his revenue budget going forward next year is for $160,500. They're just not seeing the sales because of decreased enrollment.
So what's he gonna do to save money?
That's my more question.
He needs to come up with
How do we-
$8,600 in savings.
Right.
Exactly.
Whether, whether he wants us to ask to charge people more or what. I mean, I can understand some of this stuff is that because of what we're charging people, it's causing a hardship on him, and so that's something that the school board may have to take into consideration.
But we also have to
Did I
keep in
include
mind
his letter
that
here?
we need to increase the price of the school lunch that we charge so
Yes.
that the federal government,
Right,
the amount that they're reimbursing us is
right,
appropriate.
right.
Yeah, we're supposed to come to some conclusion on that eventually, right? The board has to come to some determination. Okay. And have we signed the contract with Cafe Services for next year yet?
No, because it does hinge on these lunch prices. And his earlier letter that I did include a copy of in the board packet. This is his letter, no, it's not on letterhead, it is his letter
Okay.
that he sent me.
So it looks like there he's suggesting it will increase by 25 cents.
I gave him an increase of 25 cents.
Okay.
Projections are based on current prices, with my recommendation.
We
So-
agreed to that, didn't we? I thought the school board agreed.
Not officially, we discussed it.
All
I
right.
gave him that increase hypothetically.
All right.
I think we're waiting to hear feedback from parents.
So when I read this,
Due to-
and I read the projections will require a subsidy to the program, I assumed what he was saying is that we would have to pick up that subsidy. That's why I keep
That's
asking if
what-
he's changed his quote, what he quoted us. So are you interpreting that to be, he's
I
going
interpret
to
it.
subsidize it?
No, the projections will require a subsidy. I take it that it's due from the district. That's how I interpret
Right,
it.
so what
So
he's
they're
saying
changing
is-
their contract.
right,
They're
he's-
making us pick up the difference now.
He's saying, I'm projecting a loss again for next year, so I'm requiring a subsidy. That's how I'm reading that, so that's why I'm asking if he changed his quote. Because we haven't voted on it yet.
And quote,
What do Will
I
he
just want to be
quote,
clear.
did
what
he
we
quote
mean
us
by-
for next year and we have to vote on that contract?
Yes.
So he's taking out the part saying that he has to eat the loss.
I don't
So
know.
I'm
Yeah.
asking if that statement indicates he's changing his quote, he's adding the 82. Without officially changing his quote, is that what he's saying in this letter?
I think that's something we'll clarify with
Yeah.
him in a discussion, because there is that clause in the contract, so it is confusing, because he's using the word subsidy.
Mhm.
It just isn't specifying who's gonna subsidize.
Who's gonna
Him or us.
subsidize, right.
Right.
Yeah,
So, but we'll
Let's get
clarify
this,
that.
yeah.
Okay?
and can we see the contract before it's time for us to sign it?
Oh, definitely.
We have, okay, great,
We have a meeting next week, so we'll.
okay, it's long, that's why it takes a little time to read it, because
It is a
at
lengthy
least in the
contract.
past, it
Yes,
has been.
yes.
And have you both worked with Cafe Services before or something like this at other districts? Because I know
have
years
not.
ago, we had our own staff here who did lunch. And now, then we went to Cafe Services. I didn't know what your feeling was on that for a district.
I've not worked with management type companies. When you're a smaller district, it seems like it is a good fit. It all has its pros and, they all have pros and cons. I think a lot of it is really about how well the director runs the program. I mean, that's really what ideally, you need someone who has a nutrition background, and
Well, we
there are
saw,
not a
we saw
lot
what
of
kind of
people.
guidelines they have to
Right.
meet. I mean.
So that's the corporate level that has that
Yeah.
nutrition background.
Yeah.
That's where the support staff on so.
Okay. Maybe we'll have better, hopefully by next meeting we can decide, and maybe we'll improvise, do what you need to do with that.
Do we need to take a recess because our secretary is,
I think she's still recording.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it's being recorded. Thank you, Lori. I know it's hard to explain some of this stuff. That's okay. Principals report.
Do you have any questions on that? Before I speak? I did put a couple of things in there. Thank you to Jason Perry and to Doug Taunton for all their hard work. We are going to definitely miss them, and I wanted to officially put that down there. And also, retirements at the end of the year, Jim Goff and Diane Gray. So we wish them well. And we had our annual spring concert, which was great. We had that at Sanborn High School. A couple of things that have happened since then. The 8th graders went to Washington, D.C. They had a great time on the trip. We also had our annual wax museum for the 3rd grade. It went very well. Yep, we did a great job with that. So a lot of exciting things have been happening. So many things are happening. We have field day, hopefully, like I said, on Friday. And also, next Tuesday, June 18th, is our kindergarten graduation. So I have some invites. I'll get those passed around later. So the kindergarten teachers wanted me to make sure that I invited all of you. And tonight.
Did you ask Andy if he could sit
He
in
is.
for the 8th grade
Yep,
graduation? Great.
he will be.
I'm sorry I can't be there. I'll be at the airport again that day.
Okay.
Seems like that's one of these days. And I wanted to say something about the 8th grade dinner dance. We did
Oh, yeah,
receive
the
the
dinner dance,
invitation
yeah.
to that, but it was yesterday in the mail, and the 8th grade dinner dance was
Friday.
Saturday night. So
Saturday.
we got it a couple days late. We didn't know if we were invited. So I just want to make sure the 8th grade parents don't think that we snubbed them. We just honestly didn't realize that we had an invitation sitting in our mailbox. So we apologize.
It looks fabulous.
Yeah.
I saw the setup.
It did, I
was
did see
awesome.
pictures and it looked as wonderful as ever. It's a great program. Did anybody else have any questions for John on his principal's report?
No, I'd just like to say kudos to everybody that's played a part in these kids at Sanborn that were selected as the highest
yeah.
achieving
Yes.
students. You know, six
4 out of 6.
students, and 4 out of the 6 were Fremont students, so.
Yeah, just to clarify that for people here, that when I was at Sanborn High School, Brian Stack had told me that he met with 6 students just to ask them about AP classes, and he asked teachers just to send them to him, and he said I don't look at people's addresses when they come to meetings, and he didn't know who, what towns they were from. So at the end of the meeting, he just asked, what town are you from, just out of curiosity. And one was from the charter school, one was from Sanborn Middle School, and 4 of the students were from Fremont, so.
Yeah. So kudos to our teachers.
Awesome.
In addition, I did put in my Facebook blog about our New Hampshire scholars in Fremont.
That's a great program.
And I definitely second your comments about Jason and Doug. John, we're gonna miss them a
Thank you
lot.
very much.
Jason. And I saw Doug yesterday, so I did say something to him too, but, we wish you luck, Jason, too, for your
Yeah, thank you
going.
very much.
And if you don't like it there, we're always here.
Appreciate that.
All right. So we will
We'll have to
go
cut you pics.
Enrollment seems steady, right?
Yes.
Pretty much, up a little, couple of students. That's good.
Enrollment in the high school seems to be increasing slightly.
Yep,
The elementary schools
We're up by
pretty steady,
2.
but every quarter.
okay, and then we have the special education report.
Well, it's all about data right now this time of year, making sure that everyone is in compliance, getting all the IEPs done, getting everyone, and testing finished up, scheduling extended school year, hiring staff. Mr. Safina and I will be grieving for months on end because of Doug and Jason. So there is a lot to do. And what I have in here is the district data profiles for the information for our district that the state and the feds put together every year. And it's reflecting for last year. And the actual charts themselves are much more boring and complicated, so I really just tried to take out there's a number of indicators that they track us on every year, what that indicator was, and basically what our score was. And if you go down through it, we're doing really, really well. Like some of the stuff that's, the AYP, we already knew that we didn't make that. That's really the only category that there was issue with.
And that was last year, not this year, right?
Yeah.
We don't know about this year yet, so.
So, you look at timeliness of evaluations, that means that all of our evaluations were done within the 45 days that were allotted. There were no extensions last year. I think right now we're working on one for this year that'll be reflected next year. All of our preschool kids who are in early supports and services, they have to be fully transitioned, meeting with the schools, either identified or not with an IEP by their 3rd birthday. That was 100%. So there's some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, you did very well. I mean, in all areas.
She does.
I bet you're above the statewide average almost every area, if I'm not mistaken.
I know, isn't that exciting?
I know, it's exciting. The only thing is this AYP thing. Do you have any idea why? I mean, I assume you know why we didn't make AYP last year, and you're taking steps this year, you took steps this year.
All I can tell you about, because not being here and
Right.
in the past, but what I can tell you since I've been here is that the introduction of the reading curriculum, as well as the RTI, which has been so key to targeting very specific needs, and also really kind of realigning individual education plans to cover salient skills, rather than trying to cover every single skill that somebody might need, to really focus on those most important skills so that they can then generalize into the curriculum. So what we're doing is we're just becoming more efficient and more intense. So I think you are going to see, we see scores for students with special education needs in the NEWAs and the Ames Web and things like that. Those are going up. They are making really good
So you're
progress.
building on the foundation.
Right.
Yes, yes.
I'd also like to point out, though, that your push towards keeping students in the regular classroom, having them access the regular curriculum, is a huge plus, rather than a pull-out model.
I mean, and I've said
It
it
makes a
a
difference.
million times, and they need to be in the classroom. That tier 1 instruction is so vitally important, and a lot of our kiddos learn best in that environment anyway, where they're playing off of each other, they're hearing each other, they're practicing with each other. So, yeah, well, in
When
my
do they-
world, it's all about least restrictive.
So when do they get the specialized, like if they need PT or OT or speech, when do they actually get that if they're in the classroom during their classroom time? Is it during RTI time? And,
Well,
you know what I mean? When-
I'll let Sarah answer it, but generally you schedule that in times that they're not receiving core instruction in reading and math.
So there might be a time, say, if they need reading support. Ideally, we want them to in there, so maybe the reading period is about an hour long, just say. And the first 20 to 30 minutes, the teacher is instructing the class. And you want the kids there to hear what the crux of the lesson is, what the expectation is, do all that stuff together. Then they might break up into their small groups and do activities. That would be a prime time to work with that child, giving them support. But trying to support them through use of what the teacher is giving in the overall lesson.
So in the classroom?
Sometimes it is, sometimes we're fortunate right now to, we don't call it a resource room, but the case managers, do have a room where they're based, and there are times where they bring small groups into there only because it can get noisy in a classroom. And some of our little people need a little more quiet or some other kinds of activities, so. But they try to bring in other kids in the groups too, so it's not always all just the special education students. So we'll keep, pushing that model and pushing in rather than pulling out.
And this is for 11-12 school year, so when do you get this information? Do you just get this
Like
now?
I just got it.
Really? So they're always a year behind?
Oh, sure.
A whole year? They're a whole year behind?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Nothing to be a year.
Okay.
yeah, that's actually pretty good, but.
So they give you 15 days to do the questionnaire, but they take a year to evaluate it for you.
So it's important that we keep our own data
Yes.
and reflect on our own, what we're doing as we go along, because this is to report to the feds and for federal allocate, monies and stuff like that. But as far as making progress as a district and helping our kiddos, it's more important to keep track of as we go on. And
Wait,
then,
one second.
go ahead.
When you say we didn't make AYP, that was just for math, right, for the subgroups? That's what it said? Because I think special ed made it in reading. It was math subgroups.
Kids with IEPs, proficiency rate, we were 30% in reading, the state was 37%.
Oh, it's compared to the state, okay.
Yeah.
That's-
Did anybody else have any other questions for Sarah?
Good job.
And then the IDEA grant allocations were just something we threw in.
Yeah, we got the exact number that just came out a couple weeks back too, and it's that 5.21% decrease reduction due to sequestrations. So you can see what the totals are there. And I just listed out some typical things that I would be budgeting for in the grant as we come up. And some of those things can be big things.
Now, can you, if we're not having a Title I teacher, are you able to do the Title I grant?
Title I is 100% separate from special ed.
Right, you
Never
get
the
into
two
trouble
show.
if you miss them. So
there is funds on Title I by not having a Title I teacher, that there are funds that you lose, even though I know what you're saying, that Title I is different than the idea. Will we lose money on that part, or revenues from that?
No, what we're gonna do is allocate the money differently. So for example, we are still working with the state. The Treasures Program has a specific intervention program designed for Title I students. We would like to purchase that for our Title I students,
Okay.
but we don't
Treasure
have,
chest.
it's called Treasure Chest, thank you. And so we're trying to get that, but it's expensive.
So it actually is, we're still having Title I, it's just not being done by a Title I teacher. We have components of it, so
And it's, at this point, it's going to be overseen by
hopefully
a
that's,
reading specialist, so.
okay.
Okay. We're working on it.
What is a Title I teacher? Like, is there such thing? Or is it just
We
a
do
certified
have-
teacher?
It's a certified teacher.
Okay, so it's not like it's certified in Title I to be a teacher. You're just a title, you're just a certified teacher and you help with the Title I program if you're a Title I teacher.
She doesn't have specific, she doesn't have additional certification for that? As in reading or math or anything, any teacher can do that program?
Well, your ideal candidate would have a background in reading and in math instruction, but it's not required.
Is that what our teacher is though, the one that's there now?
I'm uncomfortable
Oh, that's,
discussing.
but I mean, it's a certified
Personnel.
teacher is what I was trying to
Yeah.
say. I didn't think that there was a specialty that you go to school for Title I teaching.
No, there is
Okay.
not.
And when you were saying Title I teacher,
It's
I
just,
was like,
it's a personnel matter, can we talk about it in non-public?
sure. Any other questions for Sarah? Okay, Mr. Brown, you are on deck.
All right. I know you're going paperless, but I've made copies of what I'm going to go through because it's a summation of a lot of different information. And I'd like you to have a copy of it so that you can stop me, or you can save your comments for the end, whatever you want to do, and I'll answer any questions you have. It just covers so much.
Karen, sorry.
It's double-sided, you did good.
New copy or in the other room.
Didn't take the credit.
Thank you.
So this, do you want to go over my building report first, or do you want my state of the facility address?
I'd like you to say this.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna stand up for this.
You want a podium?
I don't need a podium, I'll just stand over here so she can get me on camera.
Is that you this side?
This is it.
Just 10 minutes.
And you have to sing this.
All set with that, thank you.
We don't have a
At any rate,
New Hampshire's running for Senate, do we?
No, I'm the ambassador, not the president. The mission and purpose of the Facilities Maintenance Department is to preserve the taxpayers' investment in the school buildings, help the building function as intended and operate efficiently, sustain a clean, safe, and healthful environment that is in good repair and structurally sound, and provide maintenance in a cost-effective manner. I've itemized some things that have happened with each of these systems, but basically the fire safety system is all up to code, and all the inspections have been done or are scheduled within the next couple of weeks. And the stage drapes are fireproofed and they're good for 2 years as well. Emergency lighting is under maintenance contract and inspected, and all the necessary repairs have been made. The water system, all the samples have been taken and lab tested, no deficiencies, we passed all the tests. The sanitary survey was done on May 1st with no significant deficiencies noted, and that was twice in a row that's happened.
I just have a quick question about that.
Yes.
A number of years ago, there was controversy about the size of the septic system and whether it actually, that we needed waivers for it, because there used to be more students and faculty in the Ellis School than there is now. And the people were saying that we needed a waiver because we actually had too many people using the septic system. What's the capacity of our septic system over there right now, do you know?
I'm not sure, I only know that when the addition was put on in 2000, we opened in
All
2004,
right,
they added to the septic system.
all right.
So we have an area outside the athletic field fence where they added on to meet the capacity that was projected
Right,
at that time.
which is actually, we have less people than what was projected.
And all the pumps and tanks were dug up and replaced with all brand new stuff at that time.
Oh, okay.
So, so the septic system has no deficiency and is working as designed, and we have no plumbing deficiencies as well. The HVAC system, the air conditioning system is under service contract and is working well. If anything, people tend to be a little bit chilly at times. But our ability to utilize free cooling from drawing fresh air out from the outside air is both beneficial and economical. Today was one of those days where it was real cool outside, so the air conditioning wasn't even needed until afternoon time, because we were drawing in fresh air from the outside. The boilers are operating efficiently and the heating comfort has improved. We also have ample supply of hot water. The insulation that was installed over the last 2 years has helped to tighten up our envelope and reduce heat loss. The electrical system is working well, and the new outlets have been added for the new copiers, and they actually arrived today. New copiers and printers arrived today. We are still without an emergency generator, which could have saved us 4 days of school this year. But we won't get into that. I just wanted to put that in under there. Especially the 3 days for the hurricane. We didn't have school because we didn't have any power. And in the lighting, most all of our light fixtures have been upgraded to energy efficient bulbs and ballasts, and the gym lights were relamped in August. The roof is in very good shape. There were only minor leaks this year, which were quickly repaired on July 10th, and that was under warranty. On the windows, as you will notice in the June building report, I have received and submitted 3 competitive quotes for replacing the 81 awning windows throughout the building to alleviate the risk of further injury to the students when the windows are tilted out, and I will await the school board's decision as to what course of action to take in this matter. Kitchen equipment, repairs were made to the freezer, refrigeration, ovens, dishwasher. Currently, all the equipment is in good working order, and the PTA purchased and installed a commercial ice maker there. 2-way radios have been upgraded to the narrowband frequencies.
Are we in the same band as the police?
Yes.
Is there no problem, so there'll be no problems communicating with them?
No, they're narrowbanded now too, as mandated. They have different frequencies and they can monitor our channel too.
They do.
And if we want to contact them, we can just go to channel 2 and talk directly with the police dispatcher across the
Oh,
street.
great. So if there's an emergency, there'll be no problems communicating with each other?
Right. Sometimes if there's a lockdown or a fire alarm or something, they'll just get on channel 2 and call over and find out what's going on.
All right.
The playgrounds were inspected in September, and we had certified wood chips delivered and spread in October, and then Primex was notified of our action. The underground oil storage tank, I was trained in November to be a Class C operator, just basically to oversee the oil tank on site to see if anyone messes with it or if we have any problems. We need to have a trained person on site. All the testing has been done in February, March, and submitted to the state. The physical structure of the building is in good shape, and I perform periodic inspections of all systems and record the results. And I revised the facility maintenance plan this year and follow it to the best of my ability, keeping the equipment inventories and documenting repairs. Under painting, since last June, most of the door frames, hallway walls, doors, and transition walls have been painted, as well as the gym. And in the last 2 years, 28 classrooms and offices have been painted. The asbestos management plan was inspected by New Hampshire DES in January and found in good order. Our lawn areas and athletic field are mowed by me and fertilized under contract with LaBreeze Property Maintenance, and the irrigation is maintained by April showers, and all systems are currently working well. I had just a couple of items under capital improvement. We don't really need to get into that right now, but I am hoping to have the blinds installed in 7 classrooms, and I have some significant storage needs, so we can address that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
You're welcome.
So the building report shows that we have 3 quotes for the windows. Do we have, is that something next year, or is that something you have money, we don't have any money left this year, correct?
No.
And
Right.
the trust?
The trust does
have
not have that much money in it either.
Okay.
It does? But what?
For the windows?
It's got $43,000 in it. So it's not enough for these, we don't have enough to pay, only enough to pay for one of the contracts.
Did you have a recommendation for us, Michelle, on that? Like, did
I
you
would
read
like
that?
to work it into this coming year's budget.
Our current, like the 13, 14?
We're planning for the 14,
Oh.
15.
Okay, so we'd have to wait until then to do those? And do we now keep those windows just closed?
Yes.
That's the rule until we replace them?
But didn't you put chains on them, I thought?
No, we haven't put any change in.
But you planted bushes in front of those.
Right.
So,
Are these thermal pane windows, or are they just regular windows?
Yeah, there'll be thermal pane, yeah, right.
How much money do we have? Do you know how much we're going back to the town or suggested? Could that be, could we use that money, the refund money that we gave
Well-
back to the town?
I mean, you'll turn over 50,000 plus in revenues, and you'll probably have about 60,000 remaining on your budget. I mean, I think on the, expenditure side, I think that's a little bit tight, given these prices here. You can't spend their revenues, I think it's too tight. Unless we do some planning for, like Superintendent Langer said, for next year, fund balance for next year. I can come back to you with an accurate balance of the trust fund.
I mean, very least, I know we could take $20,000 out if we decided to. I know we have that much. So, yeah.
but again, we don't have an appropriation for the windows
Right.
in this coming year's budget.
Or we couldn't take money out of the trust fund even if we wanted to, is what you're saying. I'm not saying we would, I'm just,
I would like to get legal opinion
All
on
right.
that, because it's a,
all right.
in a sense, it's an unanticipated revenue. If you're gonna withdraw that money
No,
from the trust.
oh,
fund.
and we're not offsetting something that we.
It's actually held by the town's coffer, so it's not, it is reported in our financial reports.
Okay.
But actually, the town is kind of like the gatekeeper of the money, so it's not gonna affect the statute 198. It's just, how close are you really cutting your budget? I mean, I think
Well, I'm thinking of if we did it out of 13, 14's budget, because of the difference in the GMR. Could you
All
subsidize
right.
if we withdrew some money from the trust fund and then made up the difference from the GMR?
Mhm.
The difference between our actual tuition rate and the
Right.
guaranteed max rate.
So,
I forgot about that, that's.
I'm a little dense, I have to ask. There's money that we're gonna give back, or there's gonna be some money that we're mostly gonna give back to the town this year?
Yes, yes,
We
yes.
promised that we would give back at least 50,000, correct?
Yes.
It's just so we have a safety issue, could we just not, could we use that to fix the windows?
I think you're cutting your budget too
Okay.
tight on your expenditure side. I'm figuring about a $69,000 balance. That's an approximate balance. I think that that's a little too tight. The other 50,000 is the other revenues that you're gonna get back, because you're not gonna spend them. The other thing too is that this is such a significantly, it has a significant price tag that really, Scott's doing some research. It gives us at least an idea of the dollar amounts that we're looking at, but we really should consider doing an actual public bid, putting an ad in the newspaper, bringing in, multiple contractors and doing it that way.
Okay, I just,
That would be my recommendation. We at
How-
least,
How long does that take? Like, if somebody put a bid in, can we keep it for a year? Because I think what we're
Actually-
saying is we're gonna try to, we might try to take it out of the GMR difference, but if we couldn't, then you would like to put it into next year's budget. So would the bids still be good? If we did the bids today, so we'd
Yeah.
be ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about the safety issue too.
Yeah.
And I know, I'm sure you both are too.
You can write, I have written bids where I've said, look, this is a planning bid, we're looking to have this work commence, next June. We're looking for your pricing now, we're looking for you to hold your pricing with the
Right.
understanding that, whatever economic conditions happen between now and then, we're holding you to the price. Yeah, I have done that before.
I'd like to see us be ready to go with it and go as quick as we could with it when we know we have the money. So if we do have the savings in GMR, maybe we could do it early in September, or August or something. Because we know now what we're gonna save in the high school tuition. And if it's what the bids come in at, then we could just go for it and get it done.
Right. We just would have to vacate a motion that Sharon made to return that difference.
We never voted on that. We held that, we tabled that.
Table that motion.
Yeah, that was tabled.
Well,
Because we didn't know what we were gonna be looking at, we were gonna wait until we heard from you on what
Could
your
the
recommendations were.
windows be installed during the school year, or do you need a period of time where kids aren't in the building?
I would
Better.
prefer to do it without the children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Please.
I'm sure the workers prefer that as well.
I mean, if we could take money out of the trust fund, we could, obviously we don't have enough money in the trust fund to cover all this, but if we took money, we could offset, so we could still get money back. We would give us a cushion. So once we got the bids, we could figure out, and once we know how much money is in the trust fund.
We don't have that balance, right?
No, I don't have that on my laptop. My
Okay.
apologies. I'll have it for next week's meeting.
Okay.
Won't that be? Another thing, and just bounce this idea off, is such a thing as doing a project in phases as well. Do you do some of the work April vacation? And that's just another idea, getting the project.
But
Whatever
why-
you folks
I mean, if-
decide.
It just-
Right, if
right.
we finally have the money, why would we wait till April?
No, I'm just saying,
Right.
projects can be done in phases.
Right.
So starting in April vacation, it gets finished in June. and
Right, I think what
let students know.
But
Ida is saying is that she would like us to do the bid process and then get it done over this summer if at all possible.
Even if it were just half of the windows or whatever we could get
Whatever we
done.
could get
Maybe what are the most dangerous are,
You mean
Problem
next
solved.
summer, not
No.
this summer?
no, like
No, this summer.
before
This-
the new
this
school
summer.
year?
If there's savings in the GMR, Lori, for high school tuition for this year, the 13-14 school year coming up, and we can use that money to pay for this project, and you both feel comfortable doing that because there's nothing else you know of that's gonna pop up that we don't, I know things come up all the time, it seems to be, then maybe the board could vote on this in June or July and just get it done with the GMR.
Yes.
I think these prices are probably, all three of them are based on the fact that at the factory, they'll tool up once. Because they're all of fairly similar size. They'll tool up once, pump all 81 windows out,
Gotcha.
and that's why they can give this price. I think it would be different if they did it in phases. I don't think they'd be able to hold this. Because each time they'd have to tool back up for Ellis School.
Right.
Because at these window factories, they do specific projects. They tool the whole factory, or a section of the factory
Makes
for one
sense.
project, and then they move on to the next one.
Mhm.
So there's a bit of lead time.
So when the windows are done, it's just a remove and replace?
Right.
Because they're all sized and nothing
They'd all be
has been
perfectly
shimmed in.
right.
Yeah.
And Scott, these are all the windows on the new addition?
No, the addition is not counted because the addition has all sliding
Oh,
windows.
okay.
This
It's
is
all the
this is
tilt
the
though.
old,
So this is like the
the
second
left side
addition
of
to
the
This
the.
is like every section of the building except the addition.
Except the addition,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
And this is installed?
Yes. Installed and with everything else removed and disposed of.
I understand Laurie's concern to take that much money out of your budget at the beginning of a budget year, because you never do know what's
Right.
coming down the pipe.
Right.
So-
I mean, is it feasible, when we meet again this month to see, because don't we turn the money over, Dr. Town, July 1st?
Next
Well,
year's budget we're talking about, which
But,
starts July
well,
1st.
if we have money in this year's budget that we're sending back, that's,
When we brought our budget forward for next year, we brought it forward with a $50,000 fund balance. We only have 60.
So, but maybe there's enough in the trust when you use some, so,
I know we
I
have
get
good
that.
revenue, but
Why don't we see how much money's in the trust
Okay.
next week, and then we'll discuss this some more.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
my recollection is 30-something, and we just put another 10 in, and as of June 30th, we'll put another 10 in from this year's money. So that'll be 40-something, so we're close to the low end, you know, if we wanted to go the low's number instead, or
The low-
whatever bid comes
The
in.
low lowest number.
Yeah, or whatever, you know, when I looked at this, I thought, why not give it to the people that are local, because they live in our town, and why not give them the business, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's how I was kind of thinking about it myself when I saw this, but we may only need to take 10,000 or 12,000 of the fund balance, the GMR fund balance, I mean, the GMR difference, and then maybe that wouldn't be such a big bite out of your worry, you know?
Yeah, can you tell?
Okay. So I guess,
I was reading.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
So, all right, so next meeting, we'll probably talk about what the fund balance is, and then what the balance is on the trust, and then perhaps get the bid ready to go out, if you want to do a formal bid. And
You
then,
would have to do it for us.
okay, and then we'll see what the cost is from the formal bid. I'm sure these people can bid too, correct?
Yes.
So, and then we'll make a decision. We'll need to figure out maybe what
Good.
the difference in the rate is too for tuition.
I
don't
just
know.
want to show everyone that we're moving
yeah.
ahead on this and not just saying, oh, we won't worry about that.
Jamie, I mean, something wrong, I'll just get fixed and see.
Yeah. Good. Did anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Brown on his report? How do you like your new system, the computer system that tells you the temperatures of the rooms and things? Is it working good? Scott?
Great, I used it this morning, I had a teacher come down and tell me that she wanted to know at 7:00 in the morning, 7:15, why the air conditioning was on. And I just pulled the screen up and said, that's your room, it's not. That's fresh air coming in from outside.
That's so nice,
Just
to
tell
have fresh
them
air
close the
coming in
windows.
from outside.
What's that?
Close the windows?
She doesn't have windows. But, you know, it's a good tool to just show them, rather than just tell them.
Okay.
Nice. All right, good.
Thank you for seeing me tonight.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Have a good night.
Drive safe. Don't get wet.
Technology Director's report. Did Jason? Oh, no, it's right behind.
Almost. Thought about it. All right.
This would be great for Sal to bring to the budget.
Thank you.
This State of the building report for when he does his budget. I mean, not that he usually gets any difficulty anyway, but this is some great information.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right. So this is the state of the technology address. Adopted a mission statement for our technology department, and that is to provide staff members and students with current and reliable technology solutions that encourage learning and productivity. Achieving this goal will be made possible through responsible and efficient budget planning, resource acquisition and allocation, and aligning appropriate technology solutions with the specific needs of the Fremont School District. Start with the infrastructure, which is all our cabling, power for our computer workstations, servers, all that stuff. In 2001, that summer, we had a big upgrade. All the power and data cabling was upgraded in the labs. Additional cabling was installed, and same with power. If you've seen the labs, you've noticed power poles before cabling was going across the floors. Now everything's nice and neat, a lot safer. In the upgraded cabling, increased performance and reliability in the labs. Before we used to have kids knocking power cables out of workstations in the middle of testing, so it's been a big improvement.
That was intentional.
What's that?
That was intentional.
Yeah, right, NEWA testing. Last summer, I personally installed some cabling into the library that allowed us to install some additional workstations in there. And also there's room for future adding on of workstations in there. Again, that was done in-house to save on costs. And at this point, all of our labs and classrooms are properly wired to support in each room for each workstation, and eliminating the need for desktop switches. There's plans for this summer to add more cabling out in the modular in room 502. There's 10 PCs out there, and that's actually the last room that needs to get upgraded. We're going to add electricity out there too.
Which room is that?
Robin Lee's room.
Oh, okay, classroom.
Yeah, yep. As far as network equipment, all of our servers, everything's less than 5 years old, still under warranty. Everything's been replaced, except for the district website server, which the technology committee has discussed, and we started seeking different solutions available. The district has taken advantage of virtualization technology, eliminating the need to dedicate a single piece of hardware to a single server. We currently have 6 physical servers in the district and 11 virtuals. So we're able to maximize the resources of the hardware. It's cheaper, saves money. All of our switching has been replaced over the past 2 years. It's all gigabit switch now, which is faster than what we had. All HP equipment, Pro Curves, lifetime warranty, instant replacement for the life of the switch. That also made the network faster, improving performance. We have 2 firewalls, one here, one at the school. Both of those are less than 2 years old and will last us another 2 or 3 years before those need to get replaced. Security scan was done by a member of our technology committee to test the vulnerability of our network. The details of the scans were discussed with the technology department, which is me. Workstations. All of our staff laptops and desktops are replaced every 5 years. Before I got here, things were older than that. Now we're on a schedule. Everything's getting replaced on time. It's split into fifths, eliminating one big cost. Instead of replacing all the laptops at once, you're doing them every 5 years, and you're looking at 14 or 15 a year, which makes it doable. And this is part of our technology plan. And again, it makes it possible to keep that equipment up to date. Student workstations, those were all replaced in last summer. Their virtual desktop environment, that included the thin client terminals. So those are up to date. There's about 150 classroom workstations at Ellis, and about 110 of those are virtual desktop workstations. And our virtual desktop environment has been in operation for 10 months now and has proven to be a success. As far as services, internet access, we discussed this at our last technology committee meeting, stepping up our bandwidth from 16 megs to 50. I think the cost was about $100 a month through Comcast. So that's something we'll be looking to do in the future. We'll also be looking to replace our existing wireless network with a managed network, wireless network solution. Right now it's unmanaged. We have about 16 access points. They're all managed independently. It takes a lot more work to manage those. With a centrally managed solution, you can have bring your own device. There's a lot more control. You can see who's on your network, which devices, control which devices access which resources or websites. You're able to fine tune who's on your network and what they're accessing. Email. In June of 2013, the Fremont School District will move away from hosting its email service on site. We'll be switching to a product called Office 365 provided by Microsoft, and it will replace our current Exchange email solution. This is provided for schools for free. We only have 100 email users, so it doesn't really make sense to host on-site anymore. We're, off-site's for free. We were looking at replacing our spam filter, which was gonna cost us $5,500 just for a single appliance. By hosting off-site, you eliminate the need for that and a mail server.
Does that free up a server?
It does. We'll be able to get rid of our mail server, it's virtual, but it'll free up resources on the actual physical box. So it could be used for something else.
And also for this power, we'd still be able to access email, right?
Exactly, yeah, so that's another big point. Power goes out in the town a lot, it would always be up. I think they guarantee 99.9% uptime. So, we'll still be able to communicate when the power is down. And the last service is printing. And just today we had SPC and Conica Minolta on site, and we literally replaced, well, they did, I was there. All of our copiers, all of our printers. So now we're not dealing with a third-party service for service and support on those printers. It's going to be done by Conica Minolta. And consumables will still be provided by specialized purchasing consultants. I think I covered everything. Any questions?
Good job.
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah, I'll miss everyone too. Sure.
So anybody have any questions for Jason?
No? Good luck in your ventures.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for bringing us into the 21st century.
Real quick, I just have a quick question for Lori regarding the windows. This is Lori.
Bring it back up.
If we replace these windows, would that change our liability insurance rates? It would.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jason, you too.
No.
Okay, just wondering. 'Cause that's why we're changing it, is reduce liability, right?
Stop someone from getting credit.
Okay.
Okay, public input, do we have anybody who signed on the attendance that would like to speak this evening? You can just tell me who checked off.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I just have one quick question about the curriculum committee and the dinner. Just wondered, well, it sounded interesting to me, and I just wondered, like, who's getting invited and how that whole process was working.
You want me invited? We won't have to put you on the list.
Well, she might already be on the list.
You might already-
How did
I don't
that
have the
list
list with me.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, because, like, I've heard, little bits and pieces about it, and I was just curious how people were being selected, and then is there any option for if someone wanted to be involved but wasn't invited, for someone in the community to?
Yes.
Because wanting it to be open and inclusive rather than, feeling like it's an exclusive thing that you have to be chosen.
Now, what is basically brainstorming, that's how we select people, and we did pick categories, like we picked people who are community leaders, we picked people who are business people, we picked people who are politicians.
The original curriculum committee came about because our strategic plan had, we had NESDEC come in years ago and do a focus group. We had focus groups for parents, staff, and community members that came to the school in different focus groups, and they told us what they felt was most important for the school. One of the things that came out of it was that a lot of people felt that they needed to hear from the community on what students should know and learn in school.